What's up, guys? Welcome to Girls on Fire ATX. I'm your host, Samantha.
And I'm your host, Esther.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Good morning. I've gotten pretty much down to that. Welcome to Girls on Fire ATX. I'm your host, Samantha.
I'm your host, Samantha. OMG.
I don't know. I just think it's funny because it's like embedded in my brain.
I know. It is. It's like it plays in your sleep at night kind of thing. So I wanted to talk to you about something that a client, so I was doing a girl's lashes, one of my clients yesterday, and she was asking me, she's not in the industry, and she was asking me some questions about like industry stuff. Because I was telling her that, I went to Mexico and like it was a staff trip, and then we were just talking about working and stuff. And she brought up, she was like, oh, what are some of your pet peeves, which we've already talked about on previous episodes. But something that she talked about that we have not talked about was comp drinks. And she goes, well, how does it work when you bartenders give me free drinks? And I'm like, let me back you up and rephrase that really quick. And I was like, honey, nothing's free. I was like, when a bartender has a comp tab, I said, most bars allow bartenders to have comp tabs, whether it's $20, $25, $50, whatever. Most bars have comp tabs. I said, my specific bar doesn't. We actually have to like ring in drinks and pay for them out of our own pocket. So I don't ever buy anyone drinks. Sorry guys, love you, but I'm not paying $7 for you to get it to drink.
That's how it was at my old job.
Yeah, I'm like, but I was like, nothing is free. I was like, so if a bartender gives you a drink, it's going on a comp tab. And she's like, well, how are you supposed to tip on that? And I was like, well, I said, every person's different. I said, my logic when it comes to tipping is if you come out to my bar and you order 5 beers and 2 shots, I'm going to go with like around $5 to $1 per, it's like $1 per drink or $5. Like that I'm okay with. Only when you start a tab, should you tip appropriately? And she's like, oh, okay. She's like, well, what if the drink's free? And I was like, well, here's my mindset is if the drink is already, it's going to be $7, I planned on paying for that drink anyways, right? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, so if I don't have to pay for that drink, then why not just give the person who made me the drink and gave it to me for free that $7? She goes, well, that makes sense. And I was like, and if not the cost of the drink, then $5. $5 seems about fair. $10, something around those lines seems fair in my opinion. If you don't tip me at all, it's kind of annoying. I mean, it's happened before. I'm used, like, it's not like a big deal, but it's like, I am giving you a drink that you don't have to pay for. The least you can do is tip me in return.
Right.
And so it kind of just like sparked a little bit of a topic for me because at the end of the day, like how many times us being bartenders, how many times you go into bars and your friends are working and like you don't have to pay for your drinks.
Oh, it happens quite often.
And especially
but I always try to have cash and then I always tip.
Yeah.
There's times where I haven't tipped.
There's only been a few times that I haven't tipped, and it's because like the bartender, whoever's working, genuinely will not take my money. Because I've done it before to my friends and I'm like, hey, I'm buying you a drink because I want to buy you a drink. Like I don't want your money. Like, that there comes like a fine line, but at the end of the day, like I try to always tip. And then she was like, the next question she had was, well, what happens if I don't have cash? And I was like, every single bar in Austin, Texas has a dollar button on their fucking computer screen.
Or can make it happen.
Or can make it happen for like, an open liquor button to where we can charge you like 50 cents so that you can tip on your card. And she's like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. And I was like, absolutely. She goes, well, what if I just wanted to Venmo you? And I was like, absolutely not.
It's stealing.
I can't say this for everyone. And I hope, I would hope that the people that I personally work with or have worked with and people that don't do this, but like when you take a Venmo payment, that's stealing. There's only been a couple times it's ever happened in my life. And I've been like, hey, to my manager, hey, this person Venmo me $50 or whatever. Like I can Venmo it to you and then you can add it to the tip pool. Or like I'll take $20 out of my wallet and put it in the tip jar to like make up for it or whatever.
Right.
But I do not accept, because I've had people, I had a girl on Saturday night ask me, she's like, well, what's your Cash App? I want to tip you because I gave her some of my hot Cheetos because I was snacking on hot Cheetos. And she's like, that's so sweet of you. And I was like, you don't have to tip me for that. I was like, plus I can't take it. I was like, I can't take Cash App. I'm sorry. If you don't have cash, it's not a big deal. Like, I'd rather not take your tip than take a Cash App tip. I just don't even want to
losing your job.
Yeah,
or
because that's stealing
animosity at work.
Yeah, absolutely. But it was a cool to kind of like educate this girl because she genuinely did not understand and did not know because she's not in the industry. And those are valid questions because people do. I do not like when people come into a bar and they assume that they're just, well, can't you just give it to me? It's not, nothing in the bar is free, guys. Like when you order a drink,
paying for it.
Yeah, when you order a drink, if you knock that drink over and you come out to me, oh, I spilled my drink, can't you just give me another one? Well, yeah, I can, but that drink still has to be accounted for. We still have to do inventory. We still have to account for that shot of liquor. So that's why we get so irritated with y'all or anyone when you come to the bar and you're like, oh, hook me up. You're asking me to steal. And they're like, well, no, I'm not. Yes, you are. You're asking me to give you a free shot of liquor for free and not charge you for it just so that your drink can be stronger. And then where am I supposed to put that other shot at? Who's paying for that? You know, and like, don't get me wrong. I know that there's bars and I know that there's people that will do it and like don't care. And there are bars that may not notice or don't give a fuck. Hey, that's on y'all. Like, cool, whatever. I'm not the person to go to and ask because I'm like, oh, so you're asking me to steal? And they're like, no, I'm not. I'm like, yeah, you are. That's exactly what you're asking me to do. And I'm like, are you going to pay my bills when I get fired because I gave you a $7 shot for free?
It's just not worth it.
It's not. And that's literally what I say. I'm like, I'm sorry that $7 shot is not worth me losing my job over. But so I just wanted to like touch base and like talk about that because I know for a fact that like you have probably hundreds of stories to relate as well.
I have
like
lots.
People coming in asking for free drinks or assuming that because it's free that like it's genuinely free. Like nothing is free. They may call it a free drink, but it's going on a comp tab that at the end of the night, either someone has to pay or is like comped through the bar, but that's money that the bar is losing.
Right. Yeah. So I have a story because I got in an argument with my Butang chicken wing, but I'm sorry, Tyler. But we had gone out recently. We went out to a restaurant and we went and ate and we were having a great time or whatever. And when it came up to the bill was like $80 or something like that. It was like $80, $90. And he just basically like rounded it up to like $100. Mm-hmm. And I like looked over and me not thinking like anything like, oh my God, like you're not tipping 20%. Like to me, I was just kind of like, you're in the industry, I'm in the industry. Hey, just want to remind you that's not 20%. He got like a little like upset about it, which I understood from his perspective because like it's not up to me to decide how someone gets to spend their money. Mm-hmm. It's just like for me being in the industry for almost 10 years, in my brain, ooh, did you hear that? In my brain, it's just like if I'm gonna go out, like I'm already programmed in my brain that I'm gonna tip 20% because like they don't get paid, like service industry, we don't get paid hourly, anything like that. Like it was a Sunday. It was like right an hour right before she was going to close. Like that's what was going in my head. It's like the least like,
I think we're programmed as bartenders that like we always over tip. So it's like when we tip exactly whatever the percentage is, I almost feel guilty.
Oh, I feel so guilty.
You know, and it's a mindset that like at the end of the day, like we're doing that as a courtesy. I don't have to, you know, and it's like I'm that person that like when when I'm somewhere and I'm getting terrible service, like there are people out there that will tip $0 and tip $5 or like genuinely give you a crappy tip because of the fact that your service sucked. Right. And it's like in my mind, this is me, not everyone has to do this or is this way, but I'm like, that's when I tip exactly 20%. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to over tip you today because I can't like in my mind, I feel like an asshole or I feel guilty if I don't. And it's like, Sam, like, you're giving them too much money. Like you don't have to do that, but it's something that like we only do because we appreciate when it's done to us. Right.
Right.
So I can definitely see where like there can be like red flags and stuff with people who don't feel that way or don't have to, like you said.
Right. Like for me, it was just like, I understood exactly like where Tyler was coming from, but in my perspective, I'm like, I can't. I don't like my thing is like I'm thinking she could have a bad day, like it's probably her Friday, like she's eager to go home, like all the things that we think about, like all the thoughts and feelings. And so to me it's like the least is tipped 20%.
Here was the interesting thing I was
Yeah.
trying to tell y'all.
Mm-hmm.
And I was
Yeah.
trying to ask her, and I was saying, well, in your eyes, if it's less than 20%, what's the difference between me tipping $0 and tipping that $11? Because it seems like it's the same thing in your eyes.
Yeah, so Tyler's saying, because Tyler here obviously is our videographer and he does all of our behind the scenes work, and he was saying basically like what's in our eyes, what's the difference between tipping $0 and whatever the amount of his actual tip was, because it just seems that if it's not that 20%, then it's not good enough and then it's not the same. And he makes a valid point, because at the end of the day, let's say, and I'm not saying this is the case for Tyler, because obviously it's not like he's a broke bitch, but you know, like if that $10 is still a really great tip, and at the end of the day, like it's more or less being having gratitude, I guess, or being thankful for the fact that you're being tipped in general, because we are in a service industry and it is a service that we're being provided. So it's like, maybe that was all he had in his account that day, or you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, there's a lot of factors.
there's so many factors. And at the end of the day too, it like exactly like you said, it's his money. If he wants to tip, you know, $5, that's on him. It sucks, because this is where everyone's opinions are different, right?
Right.
And it's like something that, you know, you believe value to your core versus he believes to his core. It's a very touchy subject, especially as a service industry person. Mm-hmm. Because like I said, I feel like an asshole when I don't tip properly, even though it's like, well, I'm still tipping good. It's still a good tip. It's just not, it's like, yeah, like, because people get mad. It's funny. It's always funny to me when someone comes up and they order like $100 worth of shots. And at my bar, $100 worth of shots is like seven shots, which is not what it takes me 5 seconds to make 7 shots. And they're like, oh, well, you didn't tip $20. Well, I didn't really do $20 worth of work. You know, at the end of the day, like it took me 3.5 seconds to pour the Jameson and the peach schnapps in the cup, shake it and pour it in a shot glass. Here you go. Bring up you know, like if you tip me $5 or $6, I'm okay with that. You know, it's like, just because the tab was $100 doesn't mean you have to tip 20% in that industry, like in that specific moment, because I didn't. Now, if you had started a tab with me and gradually over time you came up to the bar and I remembered your shot and had it ready for you when you walked up, or I pointed at you and I was like, oh, you want another? And I already made it for you. Yeah, at that point, I want a $20 tip, because I took the time to remember who you are, remember your tab, remember your drink, had it ready for you. You didn't have to wait. That I got. You know? Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's just, I guess, the mindset that I have, because just like I was just like an over tipper, like an over thing. So it's like, you know.
It's like, always interesting when I go out with friends and I'm like our tabs at when we
are in service industry.
Well, even so, like it's just seeing everyone tips differently. Not all of us tip the same, because I'm the person that if my tab's $36, I'll round up. So, you know, 40. So I tip $8. So it's like, even though it's $36, I'm going to tip $8. But then there's people that will tip exactly $6, because 20% of 30 is $6. You know, or they tip 5 on 30, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like freaking out over $3. Like, it's really not that big of a deal.
It's not.
It's just a mindset thing. It's something that like we've programmed into our head because of the fact that we are in the industry.
Yeah, because like to me, I'm like, they don't get hourly. They live strictly off tips.
Well, they do. People in restaurants definitely get hourly, because they don't make as much as we do as bartenders.
No one knows out here in Austin.
I mean, I mean, there's certain restaurants that I know that people actually get paychecks. So
I never got one. Mine was just solely off like just tips.
Where at?
I can't even think of it. I know it's 2 spots.
Because like I know I've only ever worked in like bars and like, you know, like Kung Fu, Cat's Pajamas, Bar, Aquarium. Like if I ever did get an actual check, it was like $4.
Yeah,
but that's just because of the way the tipping, like we make obviously so much more money than most restaurant people.
Well, right, because it's just drinks and it's just like high volume, especially in high volume settings.
Yeah.
I think that's just like.
Because paychecks are deducted, I think, like if I am understanding how they work here in Austin, because in Florida, I still got paychecks. Like when I worked in restaurants, because I worked at like a wing house in Tampa, like my paychecks weren't ever large. They may be like $80, but like I still got paychecks because I worked in a restaurant, because I think the food to liquor sales is different. So that's why they get paychecks, is because the food sales are higher than their liquor sales.
I know in Arizona it was like that. Like I got a paycheck, it'd be like $100.
Yeah, like it was never anything crazy. But I think like the most it was like $100. But
yeah, it's like bartending in like
But I'll tell you
Good.
what, the extra $100 every 2 weeks or every week or whatever, it
It's
makes a
nice.
difference. Yeah,
It
it makes a really
does.
big difference.
It's just, to me, it's just like, it's just interesting because it's like, I guess like it was kind of like one of those situations where it's like I didn't want to make Tyler feel bad at all, at whatsoever. I totally understood where he was coming from, but like it was just like my own, like it was just really hard to get out of that mindset. Cause I'm like,
Your first couple quarrel.
I know.
I mean, it's okay though. As
He did tell me to talk about it, so like
no, absolutely. I mean, because it's an important. First off, money is uncomfortable. People who, when it comes to money management, when it comes to spending money, no one wants to be judged on how they spend their money, how much money they have, whether, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No one, it's a very uncomfortable topic.
well,
So-
we haven't really talked about it either.
Yeah. So, like, in that instant, he probably felt called out, you know, and for being in the service industry, that was offensive because he understands what we go through, you know, but at the same time, you know, there is some leeway. It's like you don't always have to tip that. That's a suggested tip.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't screaming at
Oh,
each
no.
other, yelling or anything like that. It was just really interesting because, like, on the car ride, like, I was like stating my opinion, and then he was like rebuttaling it, not in a mean way, but
Yeah.
I was just like shutting down. I was like,
It's a healthy conversation to learn to work through or talk through those kinds of situations, because at the end of the day, if you guys never agree on that, that's okay.
yeah, that's kind of what
You know?
we lighted on. Like, I was just like, I right at the second, like, I can't change my mindset.
You
Like,
guys
there's
can
just no
agree
way.
to disagree. That's the thing that is uncomfortable for people too, is like the amount of times I've had conversations with people and it kind of is not necessarily like a slap in the face physically, but more or less like when I'm like, I can agree with you, or like I can agree with some things, I don't agree with everything, or I don't agree at all. Like there was one of the bartenders that I work with, we were having a discussion about cleaning, after like closing cleaning. And the bar I work at particularly, they don't wipe down the bottles. And I'm amazed at that because every bar I've ever worked at, like it's been our responsibility to do all of the cleaning. The bar back does some of the stuff, but like we do everything. Well, here the bar back does everything for us. Well, she was like, well, if no one else is going to wipe down the bottles, I don't see the point in me wiping them down. And I was like, well, I understood what she was getting at. Basically, like, I'm not going to be the only person to do all the work. And I was like, I don't agree with you. And she kind of like looked at me like, wait, what? And I was like, well, I think of it as if I'm the only person doing it, at least it's getting done once a week or once every night. You know, I'm like, if it doesn't get done at all, then it's really extra dirty, right? So, and she's like, it was just more or less a perspective that she hadn't heard. And she's like, damn, she's like, I've never had anyone actually like disagree with me. You know what I'm saying? Like people are just like, oh yeah, you're right. Like, you know, standing up for your opinion and standing up for what you believe in.
Or like instead of challenging you.
Yeah,
on it.
I literally said, I can see where you're coming from, but I don't agree with you.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be a fight. It doesn't need to be an argument. It doesn't need to be like, fuck you, I hate you. It's like, I don't agree with you. And that's okay. At the end of the day, that is okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of bad about that because it's like I'd rather like avoid conflict or like confrontation and just agree with you, especially depending on like the demeanor, how you are, or anything like that. I'd rather just be like, okay, this isn't worth an argument, because for me, when I argue or anything like that, I was never taught how to respond accordingly.
Yeah.
You know,
I think
like
it's something that is learned because
I'm definitely learning. Don't get me wrong, but it's just like
there's also a time.
I do personally like being challenged, and it's like I need to learn how to give it back to the people that.
Well, here's the perfect example. You and I. There was that person that reached out to us recently, and the way you interpreted their message and the way I interpreted it was completely different.
Yeah,
you know,
I was just like, what?
You know, you took it more as like they were almost stealing our concept and idea, and I was like, that's not how I take it at all. So it's all perspective, right? It's all about like, and it's okay to like, you know, we ended up figuring out it was pretty much, like I said, a promotions company. Like they're just wanting to basically take people's party, like they want to be able to bring people's visions to life,
Right?
you know. So it's all about perspective. It's all about like you know, everyone interprets everything differently.
Mm-hmm. I'm like that a lot, especially like when I'm working, because it's like some people are very quick to be like especially like with customers, they'd be like, I don't want to deal with him. Like they don't tip. It's like, did you tell him? did you like, I don't know, communicate with them? Like a lot of times I'm like, if they're younger, they probably don't know.
Yeah.
So you probably should like tell them. And a lot of times I'll be like, hey, like I read body language very well. And I'll be like, hey, like, what's up? How's it going? I was like, what would you like? Or I want a vodka soda. I was like, are you sure you don't want anything like yummy or anything? Like, just try to have a conversation and then just kind of educate them. Be like, all right, do you want, Tito's, Grey Goose, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then it's like.
Some people you just can't help. And I definitely have been, I've definitely been that person because I know that there's a lot of bars that you're not allowed to say, hey, why aren't you tipping me? I know.
Because it's like soliciting money.
Well,
but it's like,
again, it comes into like you're calling out a customer, and at the end of the day, like whether they're tipping or not, they're still buying stuff at the bar, so therefore the bar is still making money, and that's what's important. Like, us making money is also important, but the bar looks at it as, well, if you do that and then they leave, then that's money that we're losing.
Right.
And I get it.
But yeah, that's a thing is like I had a coworker that literally got fired because he called out a guy for not tipping.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not going to serve you because I've served you like 5 times now and you've tipped $0. And the guy's like, you can't fuck it. Like he was embarrassed. So he wrote an email and then it got really bad. And then they ended up like, the owners got into it. They're like, you can't do that. And he's like, why? He's like, I'm providing a service and I deserve that I should at least be like paid for
the way
service.
I try to look at it is like, for every person that doesn't tip, there's always a person who overtips. So it's like, in essence, it all evens out. Would I love for everyone to tip and overtip? Absolutely. And there are nights where like I get excellent tips. There's nights I get 100% tips. And then there's nights where like no one tips. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
I know.
I like have a mental breakdown. I'm like, what is happening right now? But
yeah. I guess because, like, I know, like, at my work, like, sometimes, like, my coworkers will call out people for not tipping because it's like, look, like, I'm being polite. Like, I'm, like, over here, like,
I think
serving you and you're not even, like, tipping.
Yeah, I think, again,
I'm taking care of you and you're not taking care of me kind of thing. That's their mentality.
Yeah, there's so many different ways to look at it because the first thing that goes through my mind is, like, we don't know what they're going through financially, right?
Right.
Maybe they don't have money to tip. Maybe they don't know how to tip. Maybe maybe they only have enough money in their bank account that if they don't tip, they can buy 4 drinks and they have to have those 4 drinks because they want to be out and they want to be social with their friends. There's so many different factors. And the only way that I have found it appropriate to ask a customer why they're not tipping is like, hey, like, is my service not good? Like, is there something that I could be doing better for you? Because then if they're like, no, you're great. Why? I'm like, well, I just noticed that you're not tipping. So I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't something that I was doing that I could be doing better. Like that, to me, even that's pushing it, because it's like, you're still putting them in an uncomfortable position to like, well, you're still calling them out. And you're still like, hey, motherfucker, you're not tipping me. Why? At the end of the day, like, we don't really deserve an explanation. And it sucks because it's like us as service industry, we couldn't even imagine not tipping. Like, I literally can't, I would have a brain aneurysm if I didn't tip somebody. It's just at the end of the day, like, it's their choice and they get that decision and it sucks. So when this girl asked me like about tipping, I was like happy to educate her and happy to be like, hey, look, like if someone buys you a free drink, at least try to tip them like $5. If you're getting drinks at the bar, like, I get it. Like a beer is $7, just tip $1 per drink. If you start a tab, that's when that 20% really matters, because that's when we're actually taking time to do stuff for you. So. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Brain fart. But yeah, so I thought it was just like a kind of a cool opportunity to hop on here and talk to everyone else about it because whether people are uneducated, whether they just don't know, whether, because I know that there's people that are like really proud of tipping 10%. And if they feel comfortable and they feel good about doing that, then like I feel good for them.
Yeah. It's just hard to get out of that mentality when I've just been in it for so long. But you're right. There are different perspectives on it. It's just like, it's hard. It's being reminded of it.
It sucks because being in the service industry, it's like, I tip the way I want to be tipped, right? It's like treat others the way that you want to be treated kind of concept. And it's like, I'm really bad about over tipping. And then I'm like, I wake up the next day and I'm like, fuck, I didn't need to spend that much money. And I did it because I was just trying to be nice instead of like being conscious of the fact that like I don't really have that kind of money just to be thrown around, being like, here's $50 for you, and here's $50 for you, and here's $50 for
I'm
you.
Oprah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you all my
You
money.
get a car, and you get a car. Like
money.
it's unrealistic. So
Yeah. Well,
Here's a real question: is a tip
What?
really like a tip is a tip, right?
yeah, so Tyler's saying like at the end of the day, a tip is a tip. It's like really a tip.
They're shit tips. But
Yeah, like it shouldn't matter what the amount is. You're still getting tipped. Yeah, there's like that fine line, like we were talking about. Like if the tab's $100 and they ordered a round of shots, you know, or whatever, versus them opening a tab and building up to that amount accumulatively over time.
yeah.
Like $20 versus $5. Well, if it was just shots and that $5 was good enough when they did the shots, why wouldn't it be good enough when they have the $100 tab with the drinks? Like it's still tip.
It's just
I
so
know.
like
It's a touchy subject. Money is a touchy subject.
it is very, very touchy.
They definitely have seen people get really angry over money, and I'm like,
Oh
ooh.
yes.
I
very
mean, we
much.
were talking about it today. I'm like, at the end of the day, I've learned that money can be made. So it's like having that mindset that there is an unlimited resource of money at all times forever.
Yeah.
So it's like I said, everything weighs out in the end. So it's like whether you get that $10 tip, the next person might tip you $100. So guess what? Not only did it make up for the person that didn't tip properly or didn't tip enough or whatever the case may be, you just got that back and some.
Yeah. Like I get pretty, because when I work in VIP, there's auto grat on bottles and stuff. So if like I sell a bottle of like Tito's, I'm getting 20% of that, right? And I've gotten so used to that mentality, and I think that's like what's like
It's
kind of a little humbling experience. 'Cause I'm just
yeah.
so used to seeing that
Well, because
20% on anything, and if it's like I don't see it, like I know I've gotten spoiled where I'm like, if I don't. Even
had this
see 20%,
conversation-
I'm like,
I had this conversation with someone the other day because in a nice way, it's a spoiled mentality.
yeah, very much.
Because how many times I've seen it, it happened at the club I work at. I've seen it at other places too. People come in there and you're not paying for the bottle, right? You're paying for the space. You're paying for the experience. You're paying for the exclusivity of having a blocked off section where you can have your friends. The bottle is necessarily irrelevant in the sense that like, you're overpaying for a bottle of Tito's or a bottle of whatever. I could go to the liquor store and buy the bottle for a quarter of the price. That's not the point. You're paying for everything else that comes with it. But how many times you go somewhere and get bottle service, they bring the bottle out, they do the presentation, and then you don't see them again for another fucking hour. Almost every single place that you go that happens. And so it's like the way.
Hey.
Well, I know. And I'm not specifically saying you. I'm just
kidding,
saying
I know
like
what you
I
mean.
see it happen so often where people come in, they spend $1,000 and the waitress gets their 20% tip and then you never fucking see them again.
Yeah.
And it's like, bitch, you didn't earn that. So it's like you're spoiled as fuck for getting that $200 tip or whatever dollar tip for what? And so it's like these girls, I see it because it happens again so much at the bar I work at. These girls get so pissed when they don't tip 20%. And I'm like, you literally didn't even go to their table and fucking make their drinks, not one round.
Yeah.
And then you want to expect 20%? I'm like, bitch, I wouldn't have given you $5. Like,
My thing is like I've gotten so used to being over tipped on top of my service because
Yeah.
me and my other bottle service girl, Sam, like that's what we do. We're on it. We're
Yeah.
on it. We're constantly checking our tables and stuff like that. And it's like I go over there and I just act like a buddy. I'm like, what up, guys?
That's
Are y'all
the-
want some
that
like
is the-
more drinks and what's going on? And I always get over tipped and complimented for that.
yeah.
Because I'm not just standing there. But I did have one guy tell me, he was like, I would have tipped you more, but I barely saw you. I was like, I didn't see you for like an hour, for 2 hours. I was like, I literally was at your table 20 minutes ago and I asked if you were okay and you gave me a thumbs up.
Yeah.
So don't pull that card.
No,
but
I
it's
mean,
like,
again, every situation is going to be
everyone's
different.
different, but
yeah, but I definitely, I mean,
can totally see that though.
Yeah.
Because like if I don't get over tipped, I'm like,
well, and I
Merp.
think too that we also become spoiled to the fact that like as bartenders, we do get tipped larger than normal. So it's like we're already used to making more money than someone makes at a normal job. So we get into these mindsets, and I've seen it. I've had the attitude sometimes, like I catch myself in it sometimes, where it's like we expect people to tip us. And it's like at the end of the day, like it is optional and they don't have to tip us. And like, even though we don't get paychecks, that's what that's there for. Because if we didn't get those tips and we didn't have to enter them in the computer, we would get paychecks. The reason we don't get paychecks is because we get tips and we make money.
Yeah.
So it's like something that we have to we have to humble ourselves from time to time, because we are around a bunch of people where like the reason we make the money that we make is because we get really good tips most of the time.
Yeah. I do love this industry though.
Yeah. We're fucking spoiled.
We are spoiled.
That's why half of us don't ever leave this industry, is because there's not another job that you can go. I mean, not that there's not, there are, but it's very hard to leave this industry and go to a normal job, like an office job or wherever, to make the same amount of money that we're making. Because usually you have to spend years in a business and build yourself up, like go up the ladder to get to that, like a certain pay grade.
Right.
Versus you just walk in to your, whether it's your first night of bartending or your 10th year in bartending, and you can make $400.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
But on that note,
I'm really curious to know, everyone who's listening, like what your thought process is on tipping. Like, do you tip 20%? Do you tip,
over,
under? Like, do you tip based on performance? Oh yeah. Yeah, make sure you write it in the comments. Send us a direct message. That way we can talk about it again, like in another episode. That'd be really cool to see everybody else's perspective, for sure.
Yeah, if you want to keep it anonymous, just say that. If
Yeah,
not,
absolutely.
We'll give you a shout out. Put your shit on blast.
Yeah, make sure you're following us on all platforms at Girls on Fire ATX. We do have a .com that we will be launching soon, so stay tuned for that. New episodes every Monday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Yeah, bitch. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all the things.
Adios.
Bye.
Girls on Fire ATX.